Let's dive into one of the most profound and honestly heartbreaking questions about dementia. Does consciousness just go to sleep? Is the person we know still in there somewhere, just waiting for the chance to wake up? This question gets right to the heart of what it means to be a person. And it can feel like a total mystery. But actually, science gives us some really clear and maybe even surprising insights. So, what do we really know about what's going on inside the mind of someone with dementia? It's so easy to reach for that metaphor of sleep, right? It's comforting. It gives us hope that the person we love is still whole, just temporarily out of reach, and that maybe one day they could just awaken. But is that what's actually happening? Well, as understandable as that sleeping metaphor is, it just doesn't line up with the physical reality of the disease. The clearest way to see why is to put sleep and dementia right next to each other and compare them directly. Okay, so here's the absolute key difference. Sleep is a reversible state. Our brain is designed to cycle through it, and we always come back to full consciousness. Dementia, on the other hand, is caused by structural, physical damage to the brain. And that means the loss of awareness it causes is unfortunately irreversible. So you might be thinking, but wait, what about those moments of lucidity that families talk about? And yes, those flickers of clarity, they do happen, but they aren't a sign of someone waking up. They're beautiful, fleeting moments that sadly become less frequent over time. This tells us consciousness isn't just gone, but that it's been profoundly and permanently disrupted. To really get why this isn't sleep, we have to look under the hood, so to speak. We need to peel back that comforting metaphor and look at the cold, hard biological facts. See, dementia isn't just a state of mind. It's a physical disease. What's happening is the progressive death of neurons and the actual shrinking or atrophy of the brain itself. And this damage is hitting critical areas like the cerebral cortex and hippocampus. These are the very networks we rely on for our sense of self, for our life's memories, for our ability to make decisions. The hardware itself is being damaged. And what this shows us is that losing awareness isn't like flipping a switch off. It's more like a slow, progressive fade. It starts with memory lapses, then it can move to an impaired sense of self, and then, eventually, to general unresponsiveness. It's a continuum of loss, not a sudden departure into sleep. But, and this is a really big but, this is not just a story of loss. Not at all. In fact, maybe the most compelling part of this whole topic is the evidence of what can remain, even in the very late stages of the disease. And this is a really crucial point. Even when verbal communication is gone and a person seems unresponsive, research suggests it's very possible that some level of awareness is still there. Consciousness may not be just gone. So the big question becomes, how do we reach that awareness that's still there? Well, it turns out that really powerful sensory inputs can often forge a path. Things like music from their youth, the simple comfort of a hand being held, or strong emotional cues. These can sometimes bypass the damaged parts of the brain and create a real moment of connection. When you take all this science in, it kind of forces a huge shift in perspective. It makes us rethink the very nature of consciousness itself and see that it's not the simple on or off thing we might imagine. Let that sink in for just a second. All the evidence we have points away from consciousness being a simple binary of on or off. Instead, a much, much more accurate way to think about it is as a spectrum. Dementia doesn't flip the switch to off. It shifts a person's position along that spectrum of awareness. So, where does all of this leave us? It all comes down to one really powerful takeaway, an idea that can honestly change everything about how we approach care and how we see our loved ones. And if there is one single thing you take away today, let it be this. The person's consciousness is not gone. It is profoundly and irreversibly altered, but it is not absent. And that's not just playing with words. It is a fundamental reframing of what that person is experiencing. And why does this distinction matter so much? Because if consciousness is altered, not absent, it encourages us to be more empathetic caregivers. It means we have to acknowledge the person's inherent awareness, no matter how fragmented it might seem. And it validates every single effort we make to connect, through that song, through touch, or just through a loving presence, because we know we are connecting with someone who is still there. So, we'll leave you with this to think about. If the person isn't gone, but changed, if their consciousness isn't sleeping, but transformed, how does that change the way we try to connect with the people in our lives who are living with this condition? What new pathways can we try to find?